and the remote learning that we felt it was best to bring to you the cost of potentially looking at purchasing 277 more Chromebooks. And this would be a touchscreen option for our K-1-2 students so that we as a district, if needed, could go completely one-to-one where each child could take a Chromebook home. Because of the fact that our high school and middle school are going one-to-one, we have the current Chromebook cart, so we could create a system very similar to what Sand Lake has, where there would be a cart in every room with enough computers for each child to have their own Chromebook and they could leave it at school. However, if the remote learning were to continue into the fall, we would also have the potential to go to a one-to-one initiative for the entire district. An additional charge on top of the $53,000 for the Chromebook purchase would be the licensing. We'd need 277 licenses at $2,350. That'd be roughly about $6,500. And then cases would cost about, I'm estimating about $10,000 more for cases. I'm sure Eric can give me a more exact number on that, because we'd want to make sure if we did go to the one-to-one that we could look at cases. So total cost for this would be looking at about $70,000. We've had some deferred revenue that we don't anticipate needing to use this year. We've always earmarked that deferred revenue potentially to use for curriculum purchase, and we feel this may be a good time to look into that. Part of the reason we're bringing this to the board at this time is last week, Wednesday, the spot bid opened, which is the conglomerate purchasing power for the state in order to buy Chromebooks at a less expensive price. And with that being said, we are learning that Chromebooks, not only in Michigan, but around the nation, are selling quickly. And so to get our order in quickly could ensure that before next year began, would ensure that we would have these Chromebooks on hand to be able to use for our students when the school year began. Either way, this becomes a win-win, because we're already seeing that all the way down to even our first grade kindergarten teachers, we're starting to use, Chromebooks. We're starting to use Google Classroom down at those levels. And I think it's going to be something that after this is over and we're back face to face and we're teaching face to face again, that the ability to do remote learning and online learning like this is going to be a part of what we need to be able to do to help prepare students. I think we're already seeing the power of face-to-face through computers like we're doing tonight, and that may become a more norm for our younger students. And learning those skills at a young age is going to be important. And I think anytime we can get a child on a computer at a young age, it's becoming more part of what they are. Having to learn the keyboard, having to learn to type, interacting with the computer, moving the mouse even, that can be difficult for students. And that's part of the reason we're looking at the touch screen as well. But we feel this might be a viable option for us to move forward at a time where we need to prepare for the fall, and we are not sure what the fall is going to look like. In the process of this, I got a text from Eric. He said that it's $11 per case. And Eric, I'm going to chime in. You said $277 $11 per case for the 277. But we'd have to buy cases for Sand Lake Elementary as well, correct? Go ahead, Eric. Okay. 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 So 10,000 more than cover it. Based on what you just gave me, I came up with a 3,047 for 277 cases, but I still think that might be on the light end to cover Mac. Okay. Okay. Got it. Okay. These Chromebooks are about and Eric, walk me through. Chromebook license is a 7-year license. So these would be Chromebooks that would last for 7 years before we had to cycle them out, correct? So we would have to look at a rotation for how these would be replaced in 7 years. However, I think that over the next 7 years, we could plan that. I'm not sure that's the biggest issue now, but one that we have to do looking forward. So,
Does this include a warranty?
Eric?
Mhm. Sure. But it'll be an additional amount. And then what did you say? It was 18,000 for the 612? Okay, yes, yep. Okay,
Any other questions for Eric or I? And I think Dan Clegg is on the line as well, if you have a question for Dan or Kathy.
No, I'm here.
So because I'm not hearing any questions, my recommendation is that, and I know this is further, I would make the recommendation that that we would be able to make this purchase so we could get this order in place in order to ensure that we could have at least a one-to-one Chromebook to student initiative by the time we begin the fall. If we are fully back in school in the fall, we would know that at McNaughton Elementary, every classroom would have a Chromebook cart where the students would have a the ability to use a Chromebook each and every day.
okay.
Al, this is Janet. Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Are we ordering just for what we have right now, or are we just under the assumption that we may lose a couple kids to cover up for the couple kids we may gain, or?
Eric would have to go total on this, but I think that what we did is ordered enough to make sure we covered the amount of students that we currently have, because of the fact that we wanted to make sure that if we had extras, just in case we looked into the online school or online pieces of school, that if we have more than enough, that we're in a better situation. And Eric, correct me if I'm wrong, if we didn't have to put such a large order in, if we had to get a few more Chromebooks, we could probably do that. If we had to make a large purchase, that'd be a different situation, correct?
Oh, okay, so if I'm understanding my answer, then we're going to have just enough for each student. So if we ended up with 10 more students, we wouldn't have enough to cover them.
Eric, you'd have to answer that.
I'm just trying to understand that we will have just enough for each student that we have right now, then, correct? What I'm asking is, if, say, we should have an uptick and for some unknown reason pick up 10 students, we would have to order at that time, then we wouldn't have enough for those 10 if they came in the fall. Okay. Okay. Right. Okay. Okay. Perfect. Thank you.
Thanks, Eric.
This is Brian. I had a clarification also. These new ones are all touchscreen. The ones that we have now, they're not at all, right?
Correct, and that's my understanding to Eric. The current ones the touchscreen is about, I think, about $25 more per Chromebook to do the touchscreen.
So during the rotation, which ones are we looking to purchase then?
We're looking to purchase touch screens because these will be used at the younger ages. And when we spoke with Mr. Clegg and myself and talking that younger age, that having them use the touch screen instead of the smaller mouse tends to be beneficial for K1 students. So that's why we looked at the touch screen for the K1 students.
Yeah.
I apologize. I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm talking about a rotation down the road, and we don't need to worry about that tonight.
Yeah. No, good question. I mean, I appreciate it, and it's something to look into. The other thing down the road that may become a reality with rotation, in answer to your question, Brian, maybe a Chrome, kind of like a Chrome tablet versus a Chrome book, but those are just not accessible at this time. But we're going to have to also see, and maybe an improvement in the quality of those Chrome tablets and some testing of those Chrome tablets before we move forward that direction. Again, that would only be K1.
Okay, thank you.
Al, this is Madonna. Now, you talked about there would be carts then. This would allow us to have a cart in each classroom at McNaughton. Do we have those, or is that part of this purchase as well, that we'll need to get the carts for the classrooms?
That's a good question. Our decision is to we currently have enough carts at the high school and middle school that when we go one-to-one, we can pull those carts from the room and use 15 of those carts or 16 of those carts or 17, however many carts we need, and put those into McNaughton Elementary. So no, we would not have to purchase carts.
That makes sense. Thanks.
Anyone else have any questions? Really good questions. All right. Thank you, Mr. Crable. Thank you, Mr. Cummings.
Thanks, Dan. Thanks, Kathy.
Next, we'd like to welcome President Rob Atkins and architect Brendan Pollard from King Scott to present the design for the new elementary school.
Okay, thank you, Jill. Want to thank the Board of Ed for allowing us this opportunity to present the new elementary design that we're very excited about. Not only has our team put a ton of work so far into this project, but there's a lot of staff that's on the administrators and they're at this meeting now that have put a lot of time and effort, and a lot of input too from board members. So this is truly a result of a very collaborative effort, which I think makes it even more special. So what I'd like to do before I turn it over to the team is I just want to introduce our team members that are here with us tonight. So first up is Rob Budzeka. He is joining us. He's the project manager. He's one of our architects. So he is listening in on the meeting. Rob, can you say a quick hi?
Sorry, I had to find unmute. Hi, everyone. Pleasure being here.
There's Rob. And then we also have Dana McKellen. She's our interior designer, and she's actually going to be taking notes. But she's had a lot of involvement, was involved in the programming too. So Dana, can you say a quick hi to everybody, please?
Good evening.
You got to say a little more so we can at least see you, Dana.
Sorry. Good evening. Thanks for having us.
All right. Thanks, Dana. And we also have Josie Rickard with us. Josie, can you say a quick hi?
Hi, everyone.
So Josie and Brendan will be presenting this new elementary design in the model. And Josie has put a ton of time, especially into the interior spaces. So, and then last but not least is, I call him BP, but Brendan Pollard. Brendan, can you say hi? And then I'll let you take it from here.
Good evening, everyone.
Hi, Brendan.
And I'm gonna apologize now because I have a puppy that's in a cage and he wants to be out, so he may be yelling in the background. All right, so can everyone see the screen?
Yes.
Of the design presentation? Okay, all right. So hopefully this will work. Maybe. There we go. Okay, so tonight our goal, we have a couple of goals. One is to show you the exterior forms and fenestration, material applications, things like that, exterior colors. And then I'll turn it over to Josie and she's going to show you where we're at with interiors, interior materials, and application for that. So this is the overall site plan, and you can see where the high school is, where the middle school is, and here's where our new elementary school is going to go. So you may recognize also, I don't know if you can see my cursor moving here, but this is your soccer field down here, and the dirt road kind of comes up around this area in a few places up to the new site where the new elementary will go. You can see 131 over on the left. Okay, so this is our site plan and you can see Kendallville Road and US 131 here on the left. We're going to have an entry drive that comes in off of Kendallville Road, comes up the hill, and then curves around, and then we will have, oops, going the wrong way. There we go, into a student drop-off loop, and this will be a one-way loop. You will be able to go back through if you need to, and then one way out. Then inside of that loop is the staff and visitor parking lot. So parking in there. And then that all kind of points into the new main entrance, which is located in this area of the building. As you continue further to the north, there will be a turnoff for the bus loop, and bus parking will occur along here. And then there is a entrance for the students coming off of the buses in back by where the new gymnasium will be. This bus loop will also serve as hard surface play during the day because there won't be any buses out there during the day. And the students here in the adjacent playgrounds and play field will be able to utilize that hard surface play area. There will be a secondary playground to the south as well. And then the last thing to note is the storm basin. Because we are adding all this pavement and hard surface with the building, we do have to manage the storm water. And so the plan right now is to take that to the north. And hopefully we're going to find out that the soils are really nice and permeable, and you won't ever have water sitting in there except after maybe a really major rain event. And then the last thing that we heard was that you would like to see some berming along US 131 to shield the building and shield the play fields from the views from the cars. And so that's what this is indicating here. Are there any questions on the site plan?
This is Jan Dewey. I have a question about the pond.
Yes.
Is that going to need to be fenced even though the water doesn't stand in there?
Rob, I'll let you take that question.
Yeah, so we will be fencing the areas that are going to be taking a large amount of water. But what's not shown on here, and you can kind of see, we are gonna, to the south of the building, develop some smaller areas that'll be real gradual. They'll be mobile and they won't be very deep, but they'll be able to take water too. We're really gonna try to spread it out.
Yeah.
But anything that where we anticipate over 2 feet of water, anything over 24 inches that could pond up, we fence for safety purposes.
Okay. I'm just concerned about that because in the village, we have a pond over by the construction for the library. And that was supposed to be water free. And we do have a fence around it, or maybe we don't have a fence around it, but water did stand there. And there is some standing water right now in the pond off the driveway that goes into the high school. So I'm just mainly concerned about student safety.
Yeah, and especially when we're close to the playground areas.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times we're gonna fence it either way, but that is figured in the project.
Okay. Yep.
Other questions? All right, I'll move on. Okay, so this is the exterior of the building from overhead. We have 3 classroom wings that go off at roughly 120-degree angles from each other. One to the south, one to the northeast, and one to the northwest. In the center, at the north of the building is our gymnasium. In the center is our cafeteria, our media center, and our administration area. And then our main entrance comes in right here next to the administrative office. Now, I'm not going to get into a lot of detail on the floor plans because the presentation we did last time pretty much covered that. If you do need to see something, I can pull up a floor plan for you. But essentially all the spaces within the building are in the same location as they were previously. Any questions on this before I move on? Okay, so I'm going to just kind of take a few images here and we're going to kind of zoom in toward the building. Again, here's our main entrance next to administration as we come down out of the air and then down to ground level. So this is the northeast classroom wing pointing toward the main entrance. You can see we have a masonry form here with a flagpole out front that helps to identify where that front entrance is. From a architectural standpoint, we are looking at precast concrete panels that are forming the exterior envelope of this building. And so I'm going to describe a little bit more in detail further into the presentation. But the idea here is that these panels, and you can see the vertical lines, these would demarc the individual panels. So this is a single panel here. It actually goes below grade and rests on the footing below grade and goes right up to the parapet and gets trimmed out with the roofing and fascia materials. At the classroom pods or classroom wings, we have 2 paired classrooms that create this pedimented classroom wing form. And you can see here the pediment located here. So the classroom dividing line is right here. So this is one classroom and this is the other classroom. Okay. What you're seeing here, inside the building, we have the extended learning areas. And in a typical building, extended learning areas are corridors and they have to be fire rated and you can't have any furniture in them. In order to make that usable space, we have to have direct egress from the classroom itself. And so each classroom will have its own door that will egress directly to the outside. Around that, so in this single panel here, we'll have the egress door, and then we'll have some windows. We'll have windows on either side, and we'll have windows that are over the door. And then in the adjacent panel, we also have high windows, and this
is now exiting.
Oh, looks like we lost somebody. We have high windows so that we can bring in a lot of natural light and not have to worry about, protecting these. If we do go into lockdown or something like that, having to close these windows. We only have low windows here in this panel here. Adjacent to that, there is also a unit ventilator, air intake, and exhaust louver. And that's required to provide fresh air and exhaust for the space. The actual configuration of this will depend on the manufacturer that wins the bid. But I'm kind of showing a worst case scenario of the size of what that would be. Okay. So from a material standpoint and a fenestration standpoint, we're going to have really three different types of textures on the building. So as we look at this, you can see the horizontal lines here, and this would be a lap siding texture, very residential in character, but poured into the concrete. The space between the door and the window here will be a fluted concrete. And then the spaces that you see here in gray at the pediment, and then the panels flanking that, will be a cedar shingle texture. This isn't the exact pattern that I'm proposing. I'll show you that a little bit later. I couldn't find a mapping image to actually get something that was closer to what I'm proposing, but the idea is that it will have a nice texture to it. And also we are intending that this would be just unfinished concrete. And so adding that extra layer of texture will help to mask the fact that this is concrete. Mm-hmm. The siding areas will be a stained concrete. So that it's not color through, it's a post applied stain that is applied to the panel before it's constructed. And then also you notice that the window frames have a color to them, and we're proposing a kind of a rich earthy red color on the frames here at the doors, the windows, and then at the window in the exposed concrete panels, those would be a dark gray aluminum frame. So all these will be aluminum frame openings. The ones in red will be a high, a 20-year finish, painted aluminum, as well as the gray aluminum here. Now above that, there is also a recess in the panel that will get a darker stain to match the fascia. This will be metal at the top of all of the panels. So you'll have a metal cap that essentially encloses all of the exposed ends of those concrete panels. Okay. All right, so we're gonna have, there are gonna be many other images that kind of show these areas, but if you have questions, just throw them out. I'm gonna move a little bit closer to the building now. This is looking toward that main entrance. So here, the door is actually, you can't really see the door here, but what you can see is the window into the secretary reception area, which will be right there. This masonry form here will be a manufactured stone product, and that we've raised it up as a pylon in order to signify where the entry is again. And we've located the flagpole right in front of that. So that'll help draw people's eye toward where the front entrance is. And then we also have a canopy that extends out of that, and the underside of the canopy will slope down to create that welcoming drawing in of the main entrance. Mm-hmm. So the adjacent to that is the administrative block, and that has a series of windows which will be fenestrated much like the classroom windows will be. So you'll have narrower windows on the sides, you'll have the fluted concrete between that and the larger window on the inside. And all of these panels are pretty much similarly detailed. The only difference is how they frame out the top of the precast. And on this form, we have, again, the pedimented form. You'll also notice that as we go back away from this face here, which is on the angle, we will continue to have a higher parapet or extension of that concrete panel. And that does, what that is doing is to help to screen a lot of the equipment that's going to be on the roof for the air handling systems. And then as we move into the entry a little further, you see the doors into the building. Again, this would be the receptionist area here. And then you'll also notice in this masonry form here, we've done a little cutout with a little seat wall so that kids can actually come out here and sit on this. But the real reason I put that cutout there was because I've done vision studies so that the secretaries and receptionists inside this office can see out to the parking lot and see people coming in toward the building. Okay. On the left here is an image of material that I'm proposing for this this masonry element, and it's a cultured stone or a manufactured stone product. It's an 8x16 inch module, so similar to a concrete block. It just has more of a stone texture to it, and will give you kind of that mottled appearance of natural finished stone. Any questions before I move on from this image? Okay. All right, as we move around the back of the building, we've got the gymnasium form here, which is a much higher, taller form on the building. The parapet of that will be just over 30 feet above the ground level. Adjacent to that, we've detailed out a similar entry form. So you've got the sloped soffit, the manufactured stone material extending out from that, and then also you'll see the red color of the doors. Now this is where all the students will be coming off of the buses and then flowing into the building. Adjacent to that is the receiving area, which brings us back to a door here. That enters into the receiving area, and then adjacent to that is the boiler room. And then out here is the music room. So that'll be the music room. Now, the panels here, you can see that the panels that come off of the classroom wing are lower, and then they bump up again another 2 feet here as they come around the receiving room and the music room. And again, that is to screen the mechanical units. Now you are going to see some of them, and this is one of them here. There are 2 air handlers that will serve the gymnasium. This is one of them. We're going to try and push that back away from the edge of the building as far as we can, but you probably will see it as you approach. Then at the gym box, on the 30-foot panels, again, we've got the siding texture in the concrete. We've got the dark gray band, and then we switch over to the cedar shingle texture. And then at the top of that, we've added an extra band and then a little bit more of the cedar texture up to the fascia and the top of the wall at the gym. Then you'll notice here we've got some punched openings on this end and on either end, and those are translucent panels that will allow natural light into the gymnasium. That's actually a code requirement that we have to have some natural light coming into the gym. And so that's the material that we're going to have to help us do that. And then zooming in, I didn't put the sidewalk in here, but this is the gym entrance. Again, it's the manufactured stone product, the angled soffit into the entrance itself. And then as we go around the other side of the gymnasium, we have several panels on this wall that will have the cal wall, the translucent panel in them. And then we drop back down to the low section here. And this is where the art room is and the STEM lab. And again, those will still have the little bit taller panels there. And you can just barely see peeking out over the top are the two air handlers, one for art and one for the STEM lab. Now, you will also notice here, this is the air handler for the cafeteria, and it's a much larger unit. And so we've kind of tucked that back as much as we can. But there are going to be times when you will see that. You'll see that from the expressway. You'll see it from the playgrounds. But it is a necessary element to have to air condition the space. And then as we come around, this is the northwest classroom wing here. And then as that comes back to the core spaces here, we have the media center. The media center will be detailed very similar to the administrative area, except that we will be adding additional windows above the standard window detail. And that's just because we'll have a higher ceiling in that space. And when Josie gets into the interior design presentation, you'll see how that looks on the inside of the building. So any questions on that before I get into the details of the precast? Okay. All right, so this is the actual pattern that we're going to propose for the precast. I've got a blow up of that. I've been working with a precast manufacturer to determine the most efficient layout for the design that we can minimize the number of form liners that we have to have. And so I think we've got it down to just having 2 form liners. So a form liner is essentially going to be this whole area here. And what they do is they create a texture in it. It's like a rubber material. They create the texture in it. And then you lay this in the form or in the bed, and they pour the concrete into it. And then they'll do things like blocking out for the windows and blocking out for the doors and things like that. So that's what all these lines are showing. I wanted to show what it looks like with the panel joint, because the panel joints will have a thickness to them. They're about 3/4 of an inch, and there's a sealant that goes into that. But that's pretty much the design behind form liner A. Form liner B will be the gymnasium form, and they'll just block out areas where we want to have the horizontal banding, and they'll block out areas in where the cal wall openings are. Now over here you can see the texture, and I wanted it to be a random texture. And so what this is it's a cedar shingle pattern. I'm not sure if there's a name for it, but you have a straight edge and roughly an 8-inch exposure. And then below that, you'll have somewhere between a 3-inch and a 4-inch exposure that's more jagged, kind of randomly occurring. And that'll create some banding in the horizontal flow of the building, and it will also provide that visual texture so it doesn't appear as if it's just concrete. Any questions on that? Okay. All right, so color palette. So what I've got here, we're starting with the Eris Craft Stone. That's what you've seen already. The red color, and this is really a historic color. It's actually a color I like to call a Frank Lloyd Wright red. When Josie gets into her presentation, she's also bringing this color into the inside. It's not really a, like a school color red, so it doesn't really have I guess, it doesn't really reckon to any other school district, hopefully, for you. We're pairing that with a tan siding where we have the horizontal lap siding. And then we'll have the exposed concrete in the cedar texture. And this isn't actually concrete, but it's the texture that we're going for. And then you'll also have the dark gray accent, and this will be in metal. It'll be in some stain where we have this going across the actual concrete, and then window framing, window and door framing. Okay, so that's the color palette. If there are questions, we can answer those now. Otherwise, I'll turn it over to Josie. Any questions? Okay. Josie, you're up.
All right. So Rob mentioned, my name's Josie Rickert, and I'm one of the interior designers for Tri-County. So I've been working a lot in the 3D images and the interior spaces for the new elementary. And today we've developed those further, and we want to show you what we have. So we've broken down the spaces, and we're going to go over the admin office, specifically the reception space, the media center, the central hub or the heart of the building, the cafeteria, the kiva, which we'll explain that a little more in detail what that exactly is, extended learning areas, which Brendan has kind of touched on, the general classrooms, the STEM room, the art room, music, and then gym. So really for DD, our goal is to solidify the interiors, materials, and finishes. So you guys will be seeing those in 3D images, equipment selections and layouts. So this will be marker board, tack board, and your technology really will be the tablet, 65-inch tablet mounted to the wall. Your cabinetry, so your casework and your upper and lower, your talls, things of that nature. And then we won't go too in depth with mechanical and electrical and plumbing concepts, but we'll touch on it. Brendan, I'm going to request control so I can point. And please feel free to interrupt me at any point if I'm going too fast. I talk very fast, so. So we'll start with the paint scheme. So really what we talked about with Al and the team earlier on in programming phases was we really wanted to incorporate the Tri-County colors throughout the whole building. So you can see your guys' yellow, your gray, your black, and then white will be our base color. Then we're proposing 3 additional colors. So these will be the accents that are used throughout the building. Our casework and door frames will be a maple finish. And then countertops will also be a laminate, but it will portray more of a stone effect than a wood. And then on the walls, for additional features, we've got 2 wall coverings that you'll see later on, and it'll portray in the spaces a little bit differently. So, any questions so far? Okay. So this will I'll kind of break down the spaces a little bit more into materials, but the first one is the secure vestibule. So this will be the space that introduces from the exterior into the interior. So we really want a durable carpet. So this is actually a walk-off carpet. So between the two options, the top one is kind of where we've got the stripe lining. This one will kind of let the water sink down a little bit more, so it won't stain as easily. And then with that texture, having it have multiple colors, if there is a stain, it's not as noticeable because there's multiple colors going on. There is also an opportunity, if you guys go with more of a solid, you can do a water jet logo. This is just one option, though. You guys can do your Tri-County if you wanted to, but that's completely optional. Okay. Next are the carpet that we discussed. So originally we were thinking, it had been requested that we use Tandis Sentiva. So we are using that. However, both of these options come in roll and carpet tile. So we suggest if you can use carpet tile, definitely to do that, because if a stain happens, you can easily just pick up that tile and go and wash it off and lay it back down. It's very easy to replace carpet tiles too. So you'll have attic stock that if one carpet tile is completely ruined, you can easily change that out. So we do suggest doing the carpet tile. However, it does come in rolls. So in the spaces that we will be using the carpet tile is the admin offices, the conference spaces, support office, media centers, extended learning, classrooms, and then the music room. Also throughout, mainly throughout the extended learning areas, you'll see the accent pieces and how we use it as a sensory feature to guide kids throughout the space. Next is the wall tile. So here it's used minimally throughout the building, but it's still an important feature. So we landed on a stone look, which we kind of wanted to take what we were doing in the exterior of the building and incorporate that in. So like Brendan had mentioned, we are using the same red, both in the exterior and interior. We want to do the same thing with the tile and different textures that we use. So this will be used in the cafeteria where we have drinking fountains and sinks, and then through the toilet rooms, and then drinking fountains throughout the rest of the building. Okay. So next is to kind of go back to the flooring a little bit. We talked about doing polished concrete, and we want as minimal flooring changes as possible for maintenance reasons and cleaning. So where we're using polished concrete, it'll be some additional spaces in the administration office, so your health room where spills might happen, your storage room, areas like that. And then in the central hub that connects throughout the corridors, the cafeteria, the kiva, the classroom, cubby areas, and then the STEM and the art. So with that being said, since it's a new pool, we can do different aggregate sizes. So with the less aggregate, it's less expensive to do. So Richland, it's a very cream polished look. You can see it a lot in department stores or commercial stores like Meijer or Walmart, things like that. And then Grand Haven, it's a little bit more of a salt and pepper look. Start to see the aggregate just a little bit more, but it's powerful as the next two. I think I have one more. So Augusta, medium aggregate exposure, so it's still got that salt and pepper, but it's not as powerful as the Rockford. The Rockford's really going to be your showstopper. It's often used in the automotive industry where the showrooms is the design. So that's generally where it's used. It does come with a bigger price tag. So if it's a budget concern, we might back down to less aggregate. Gym flooring, I might come back to this one, but just to kind of give you guys a little idea of what we're using. I had a sample here. So the gym flooring that we're proposing is a resilient athletic flooring. It portrays to be like a wood flooring, so it looks like it's maple, but it's really a resilient athletic flooring. So it has movement and bounce. So it's really good for elementary students, always falling on the ground. So it has that bounce, and it also has a good absorption quality. So it's not as noisy as in there as it can be. And you can get this in multi-use. So if that's something that you guys are looking for, if you want to bring out chair tables into the space, going with a multi-use flooring. Okay, so into the good stuff. So how the presentation is broken down, generally each space will have about 2 slides. So we'll have the floor plan on the left hand here. We'll walk through it a little bit and then take you into the 3D images. So with the admin office, the secure vestibule, it will be right here. So where the arrows are indicated, that's just kind of where your entrances and exits are. So you'll enter into a secure vestibule where it's fully secure. It has complete lockable capabilities. So in case there is an intruder, you can easily lock it down and keep them in that side of the building. If they're not an intruder, they can come right in, check in to any of the receptionists. As you will see and throughout the whole presentation, the furniture is in white, just because we're not doing furniture, so we just want to make sure that we're showing the space. However, we do have it in there so you can get a good idea of what it would look like with furniture. So going into the space, you would stop at one of these 2 receptionists, and then you can then enter into the building through this door. So in the 3D image, you can kind of see it here. And this would be the entrance points for students and staff to come in. They wouldn't go through the secure vestibule. Then we have some technology imported into this space too. So this is a good space for TV announcements, displays, things that you want to let your parents know. So although we don't buy the technology, we do plan for it for our mechanical and electrical guys to make sure that we have enough outlets and power data and stuff like that. Okay, next slide. So coming out of the admin office, this would be from that student entry point into the hallway. You can see where the vestibule is. We have a Tri-County logo on that stone. So it acts as that introductory into the rest of the building when they are buzzed through into that space. On the south wall of the reception area, we have built-in casework for your mail. So it was really important, we found through programming, that those mail slots were closely adjacent to one of the admin ladies. So having that really close so she's not far from her desk when mail comes, it's easy to come and grab, and then also the staff can just hop in, grab their mail, and go. And then down at the lower, this image, it just kind of gives you a better idea of the vestibule and entryway. Any questions so far on admin? All right. So then leading into the rest of the building, I believe the hub is next. Yep. So the hub is definitely the heart of the building. It's the connection to all the other spaces. So it'll lead you to the media center, the cafeteria, the classroom wings, and the admin office. So since we have 3 classroom wings, Brendan had the awesome idea of naming them after each county. So we've got the Newaygo County classroom wing, we've got the Kent classroom wing, and then we have the Montcalm classroom wing. So that's just kind of incorporating your history into your building, which is a fun aspect. So also, since it's the central heart of the building, we're proposing within the concrete to do a compass detail. So here you can see it's kind of perfect because north points right up at the cafeteria, which is actually direct north, which can teach the kids even what a compass is. I'm sure half of them don't know now. They would if they had it in their building. So then to also draw attention into the space, since people are going to be walking through this all day long because of the 3 classroom wings and then the cafeteria and the media center, to draw more attention to it, we have a cool lighting fixture that hangs at varying heights to kind of break up that space. And then to also let in some natural daylight, we have the cowl wall, which lets in diffuse lights. And then I'll just kind of run you guys through that these are located. So this orange wall indicates the admin over here. The blue wall with the birch graphic indicates the cafeteria and leads you down to the classroom wings. And then the red wall leads you into the media center, which is the next slide, I believe. So when you enter off from that hub, the first thing that you see is the admin desk, or not the admin desk, the information desk. So throughout programming, we found that the media specialist really needs good visuals into the whole entire space. So from her desk here, she can see who's entering and exiting the building or the library. She can see the exit from the media center. And she can also see all of the rest of the media center if she needs to. So the really great thing is there's not really any blind spots for her, so she can really keep an eye out on the whole space since it is a rather large space. Also throughout the media center is we have perimeter shelving all the way around, along up with built-in benches and alcoves. So where there's these breaks, that indicates a bench or an alcove. We have found that a lot of kids are attracted to these little nooks and crannies. So we've incorporated it into the rest of the building, as you guys will see later on. But this kind of gives you a good idea of what that would look like in 3D form. And then another really important thing that we found out through programming with the media specialist was the need for like a teacher touchdown space. So over here, she really wanted a space for where multiple kids can come in. Maybe it's a whole classroom to come in, sit down, maybe project on the screen. And it's also a good way to implement social distancing if needed again. So you can have 2 kids at this table. You can have 2 kids at this table, the teacher's in this space, and she's directing each kid, and it's kind of, it implements that 6-foot rule. Brennan, will you flip to the next slide? So here's some more images of the media center. We'll start with the reception desk. So this will be a custom made piece that's unique to the space. So we've got the maple laminate facade, and then Lumacore guard, so it won't hurt that maple underneath, and it brings in a cool biophilic design aspect. The lower picture shows that reading nook and how it's used in the space. There's one symmetrically to the other side of the room, which was kind of pointed out in the floor plan. Then again, throughout this space is acoustical ceiling clouds in the shape of a hexagon to kind of represent that hub again, repeating those shapes. So this will really have some good absorption qualities. That's really important in a media center. And then overall, the whole space, we design the building with furniture in mind. So making sure that it has multiple uses and it can be set up in different ways. This space definitely has that ability. So any questions on media center? Okay, I think that leads us to the cafeteria. So from the hub, like I mentioned before, that's located right here. So that leads you straight into the cafeteria. So we've got a few entrances and exits into the cafeteria. It is important to note that this space is going to also be used as a corridor into the specials wing. So the cafeteria will be used all throughout the day. So it was really important to incorporate some fun design aspects into this space. We're also looking to use this as an additional overflow space for classrooms. We talked about possibly it being used for before and after school activities and organized school events. So we've got a storage closet off to the side for things like those social events or before and after school activities. So backing up, right when you walk into the cafeteria, we have a drinking fountain alcove, which you can see in 3D view right here. Through programming with the staff, we found that they definitely want their drinking fountain, so we're going to give it to them. And it's the first thing that you see when you walk in, so the kid can fill up their water bottle or get a drink. Or if they're walking to gym, it's the perfect opportunity to do that. And then flowing throughout the cafeteria, the flow of direction would be to come down this wall, so to follow the seagrass, which you guys will see in the next slide. But you'll flow down and then you'll stop here and wash your hands. So you can kind of see here the trough sink. So it's a 3-person sink. So multiple kids can be washing their hands at once, which, as we know with COVID-19, is very important to be washing your hands. So it's a perfect opportunity to do that right before you go into the servery, which is right here. And then we've got an exit out of that servery into the general area of the cafeteria. So next slide, please. So here you can get a good idea of that wall covering that I mentioned before. It's that seagrass. It brings in that biophilic design that often calms kids. And it also makes them feel young. You know, we want to keep them feeling young and youthful. So having that design feature, I think, is very important in this space, especially of this volume, and that is being used as often as it is. And then one last thing in this space that I think is important was, I can't remember, in our programming, somebody mentioned this would be a really good spot for people to maybe do some projection screens, hook up technology. So we did incorporate 2 projection screens on these 2 walls flanking the entrance of the cafeteria. So these can either be recessed into the bulkhead that we have, or they can just be wall mounted. That it's minimal, but whatever you guys prefer on that is what we can make happen. But if nobody has questions on that,
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Could you repeat what you said about that design element at the top of the cafeteria? You said it about creating a feeling.
So it's called biophilic design. It's the intent of designing with nature. So that really, nature calms people. So I think it's really important to incorporate that into schools, especially elementary schools, is to give that sense of calmness. And then it also is that whimsical feeling that makes the kids yet calm, feel young, and keeps them, vibrant.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. And actually, one thing I forgot to mention, Brenna, I'm going to have you back up one slide, and then I'll just touch on it quick. We have those cowl walls that let in diffused light on these walls. So it does stop at this column here and this column here, but it lets in diffused light and natural light that we really want to keep within a space of this volume. Okay. Now I'll have you go to the Kiva, Brendan. So Brendan can kind of talk a little bit about this too if he wants to. This is a really cool design aspect and makes it a unique to your guys' building. It's really exciting. I love the idea, but so it's centrally located right off the hub. So it leads you down into one of the classroom wings. The idea of the Kiva is to act as, again, an overflow space for classrooms. So it can be a presentation space, or maybe the teacher wants to use it as a lesson area. It has multiple uses, or it could just be a little reading area for 3 or 4 kids to come down if they're reading a book together. So since there is a grade change, we have an ADA ramp that leads down to the Kiva along with a stair, and then another ramp that leads down to that classroom wing. We have it in maple, same as the casework, so it really has that cohesive design feeling throughout the whole building. And then technology into this space was important too. So teachers have the ability to connect with ease, or maybe even a student wants to connect their new Chromebook up and show them what they did. And did I touch on everything with the Kiva? Do you want to add anything?
I think you hit it.
All right. So this kind of leads us into the extended learning space, because that does act as an extended learning. But this is also an exciting design feature. Brendan mentioned it earlier. So since it is a corridor, we had to add those exterior doors in the classroom so we can use it as usable space with furniture. So this is for code and egress codes. We've got a section view that you can kind of see would be looking at from a 2D standpoint if you're looking at the wall straight on. So where we have the red in all areas of the building is a source of wayfinding for kids to indicate their classroom. So all the red areas is an indication of any classroom, which is important for the kids to remember. And then we've got light monitors here. So that just brings in some natural light from the exterior of the building into this more closed in area. There's not as many windows for natural light, so we did incorporate a little area for that to come into the space. Also, I think it's important to note that this will be overflow for classrooms, and multiple classrooms can be working together. So say 2 second grade classes are reading the same book and they want to read with a friend in their class. This is a great spot to do that, and also just work in groups. This is also a good chance, again, for that social distancing if that ever happens again and you need to incorporate that into your day, you could have, 10 or so people in the cafeteria. You can have 10 or so people in the classroom, and then 10 or so people in extended learning. Not every classroom can do that, obviously, but there's enough spaces in the building for really you guys to spread out if this ever is a problem again. And then you can see here we have that drinking fountain alcove again. So each classroom wing will have that drinking fountain in each wing, and then it'll be touched on a little bit later on. But where we have those classroom entrances, so here's a classroom, and then here's a classroom. In between those classrooms, we have toilet rooms, so it's a very easy access for both classrooms to use, as well as extended learning. And then one last thing for this slide is the casework that we're going to incorporate into this extended learning area. So this would be for maybe activities that you guys have found that really work well for the extended areas. So this could be maybe like a track that they set up for, I don't know, robots or something like that. So all of the casework will have lockable capabilities. So if the kids are in the classrooms, or in the extended learning areas, they're not opening and closing the cabinetries and taking stuff out. So that won't be a problem. Also, one last thing to know, I know I said that, but this is for real, the last thing on the extended learning. The vision into the classrooms and out of the classrooms into the extended learning areas is really important, because if the teacher is in here, it is important that she's still being able to supervise those students that are working at this table. So she can easily look out the window and see that they're reading their book or they're not reading their book. So, all right. And I think the next slide is just one more extended learning area. Yeah, so this just shows you, again, that classroom entrance, and then some more casework, and then just another furniture grouping. So the extended learning areas do definitely have a lot of capabilities for different furniture groupings.
And one other thing to point out on the classroom doors, they will have a side light that has vision in it as well.
Yep.
I have a question on this corridor that you're showing here. This is like a hallway between classrooms. So I'm instantly seeing, with a building full of 5, 6, 7-year-olds, I'm looking at the casework in the corners, and I'm mentally seeing little heads bumping into that. Having been a school nurse before, just for that age group, that was just the first thing I noticed. That's
a really good concern, and Dana might be able to talk a little bit more on that. Sorry, Dana, I know you're taking notes, but we've done this at Madawan, and she worked on that project, so I'll let her talk a little bit about that.
We can definitely put a radius edge on all those countertops, because that's a really good point, because there'll be students back and forth. So yeah, we can soften those corners. It's a good idea.
Yeah, that is a really good idea. Also, with the carpet, you can see the accent carpets kind of floated in throughout. This acts as a sensory feature for the kids, so they can hop from one square to another. A lot of teachers thought that it would be a cool design aspect to incorporate in, that they would like to follow, is that they, the kids could use the hallways for their own learning, and maybe they could jump from yellow to blue. Also teaches them colors. Any other questions on extended learning? Okay, so moving into the general classrooms, I just have a snippet of the floor plan of 2 general classrooms so you can get an idea of what those 2 look like in comparison together. So the entrance is off of those extended learning areas, and it leads you into the classroom. So mainly what we're going to focus today on for the classrooms is going to be the teacher wall and the casework. So here on this north wall would be the teacher wall, where we have the 65-inch touchscreen tablet that technology will be doing, and then 2 whiteboards on either side. You'll see this again repeated throughout the presentation. It's going to be the standard for the building. And then that just leads us right into the casework. So as you enter in, we've got 2 talls and a teacher wardrobe. So for that teacher, they can put their storage in there, whatever they need to keep locked and secured. Again, these casework, with the ones with the cupboards, have lockable capabilities, so kids won't be getting into them. It offers a lot of storage for those teachers, which is often really important. And then leading into the rest of the classroom, once you come in, we have cubbies in the space. So it was really important to get 30 cubbies in, and you'll see it a little bit better in the next slide. But the idea is to replace lockers, so they have hooks for their backpacks, their coats, hats, things of that nature. And then it's got concrete floors. So when it's wintertime or when it's wet out, they can come in and put their boots on the floor, and it won't ruin the floor. It's an easy cleanup, just mop it and it's good to go. And I'll have Brendan go into the next slide. So here you can see that half wall. So that acts as kind of a barrier, and we call it back of the house operations. So it really hides the things that you don't really want people to see. So all the coats that are thrown into the cubbies, and the backpacks and the wet boots, that's all hidden behind a half wall. And then to make that wall usable, we have a marker board on it. So it's another teacher wall for the teacher. So that's also really important that we found through programming, is that they want more usable magnetic marker boards. Then moving into the space, into the casework, you can kind of see it a little bit better in this visual. And then we've got a section view. So you'll notice that it comes off, the casework comes off about a foot off the ground. So that's again for the wet boots. They won't rust out the bottom of the casework. So you won't be having to replace your casework because of rusty or wet boots. And then we have an ADA sink with storage flanking both sides. So each classroom will have their own sink, which is things that we got requested a lot of in our programming meetings from the teachers. They definitely think that was an important aspect to include. And then one last view of the general overview of the classroom, and then you can see that exit out that each classroom will have into the exterior. All right, any questions on classroom? All right, I think next is going to be our STEM. So with the STEM room, there was a lot of discussion on, with it evolving, how do we make sure that we think about that with design, especially because technology is always evolving. So one thing that the teacher really wanted us to incorporate was storage. So as you walk in, you'll see the storage room will have industrial shelving in there. So whatever comes up, she'll be able to store in this separated off lockable room in the STEM room. And then we also have a wall of casework here on the north wall with 2 ADA sinks that will help the classroom be more efficient. So one kid's not just waiting in line especially in the STEM, we find that it's often that they always need to be washing their hands for some sort of activity. And then here we have a tack board surface for posters, student displays, projects on the east wall, and then we're on the north wall, but then you'll see it again on the east wall in the next slide. So there again is that tack board, and it's really cool because it can be floor to ceiling if you want. We thought a good stopping point would be with the door heights. So it's just another opportunity for that teacher to display things, especially with STEM and science. They're always got some sort of poster that they need to hang up, and this is a really great solution to do that. And then just the teacher wall, again, we've got the 2 marker boards and then the tablet technology board in the middle. And I will note all the classrooms have 2x2 ceiling tiles. So then they'll have 2x4 lay-in lights in there as well. So moving into the art room, you enter off of the specials hallway. It leads you into a storage room. So this is where all the paints, all those big projects will be. And then the art teacher will have access to a kiln room right off that storage room. So backing back out into the art room, we've got a casework alcove here with 3 sinks. So again, with art and STEM, it's really important that we have that many sinks because they're getting way more messy in art and STEM than any other classroom. And then in the center, we have mobile casework. So this is really cool. This was requested from, I think, one of the art teachers. I can't remember who, but she thought it would be a really good idea. It acts as paper storage and acts as an island, but then you can also move it because it's on wheels, and you can have it as a demo table. So the teacher can easily wheel that casework up to here, use it as a demo table, show her students what she would like them to do, and then wheel it back when she needs to. With that being said, those specific items or casework, they do have lockable casters and the industrial casters, so they won't tip over, and kids won't be able to move them unless they're unlocked. Then moving on into the 3D images. So there again is the casework alcove. We've got drying racks hung up on that north wall as well. And then to the east wall, you can see that full height. We took it all the way to the ceiling this time for the art room, especially because she can really display the students' work and make them have a sense of pride and show off what her students can do. So having that tackable surface in this space was really important. I think in the next slide, you will see the teacher wall again. Yep, the 2 teacher walls, the rest of that tackable surface. You can also hang Vincent van Gogh pictures if you can get your hands on them. And then just a few more images of what that casework would look like, because that is such a majority of the room. Okay, and then again, the exit out of the door or out of the classroom is right there. So ease of access. I think that's it for the art room. Does anybody have questions? All right. I believe music is next. So with music, you would enter again off of the specials wing. The image that Brendan showed, that it was at the very end of the building next to the boiler. I think that's a really good location for the music because it is going to be a louder space. It's directly located next to the gym too. So those 2 generally loud spaces off to the end of the building, I think, is really beneficial for the rest of the building. just because it can get really noisy. That being said, we will do a high NRC rated acoustic ceiling tile in here. So it'll really have that absorption qualities that we really want in a music room. Also, something to note in the music room is the 2 doors. You'll see it in the next image. But the music teacher really wanted to make sure that the flow of the space was easy and you could have one class coming in while another comes out. So we have a double door there for that purpose. And then a sink in here as well. And then towel storage for specifically, she mentioned the oaf instrument quite a bit. So we made sure that those have the correct dimensions. And then on the east wall, we have lots of windows, so that'll let in a lot of natural light. That being said, on all of the windows in throughout most of the building that has direct vision, we will have roller shades. They're like they're blind basically, not just for vision and security, but also daylight. If there's too much daylight coming in, teacher can easily roll those down. I think next slide. Yep, you can see those. That casework just a little bit better. That sink with the upper cabinets above. And a lot of the times they do want their countertop space as well. Just another space to put things down. And then you can see those doors here. One will lead in and one will lead out. Okay. And I think the next slide will be the specials hallway. So all the spaces that I've showed you guys so far is considered in the specials wing. So the art, music, and STEM, and now the gym. So this is the entrance to the gym. We've got these bench alcoves, again, repeating what we did in the media center with that sense of that alcove aspect. And then painting it out to kind of make it feel like a concave, fun little alcove that they could look forward to sitting in. And then in the middle, since it is a gym area, we have drinking fountains here in this section view. You can kind of get a good idea of it. That leads you down. I didn't show the bathrooms, but the bathroom, a group bathroom would be located right across the hallway from here. So this recessed light, which will be used throughout the building, will kind of lead that person in there, sort of like a wayfinding element again. Lastly, with the alcoves is that we were using that tackable surface again, which we used in the STEM and the art room. So then they can tack up displays, or maybe they're having a daddy-daughter dance and they want to put that up there. This is a perfect space to do that, especially because of the gym and it being possibly used for a revenue generating space. So it might be an area that community members might see as well. So we wanted to make that a fun area for that. Okay, and then the last slides is the gym. So this will be the last space that we'll be talking about tonight. So the gym, we have one main basketball court, one main volleyball court, and then 2 side basketball courts. So it's definitely a fully equipped gymnasium, especially for elementary. That's a really cool aspect that you guys can do that. Then we've incorporated bleachers here. So this space can again be used for overflow and an additional classroom space if the need ever arose for that. Moving on to the 3D images, we've got your Tri-County logo in the corner of the building. So it's introducing that again into the rest of the space. One thing that we do need to get a little feedback on is scoreboards and court lines. If you guys want 2 scoreboards, if you only think you need 1, we can do either. And then court line markings as well. But we can always get your feedback at a later time and make those updates. Another part of the gym is that we will have exposed ceilings. So these crisscross triangle things that you see here, those are steel grit or steel joists. So that's what's holding up the roof of the gym box. And then we have exposed ductwork here. So it drops at a lower height there and then feeds up and over into the rest of the building. So that's important for air conditioning and heating.
One of the things that we're going to try and do is get the ductwork tucked up into the joist space. And the bottom of the joists are at 24 feet roughly. And so we just need to verify that that's adequate for the athletic needs. So if somebody could get back with us on that, that would be great.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, we'll have to get some feedback on those, but you guys can look at this presentation again, kind of discuss, and then just let us know. But there's one last slide for the gym, and then we'll open it up for questions and answers. So here's some 3D images of the rest of the space. So you can, again, see that exposed ceiling joist, and then right now where we have locations of that ductwork. With this being such a big volume of space, we really wanted to break it up, and the way to do that was through paint and color. So where you see the tall colors or the pop of colors, that's an indication of an exit or an entryway. So it's, again, that source of wayfinding without being as obvious with signage. Obviously, we would have exit signs and things like that, but it's just another way to indicate, hey, this is an entrance, this is an exit, especially for little kids. Then again, as we mentioned before, we've got some cowl wall on this, I think it's the west wall, and then it carries over onto the north wall. So that'll let in some diffused daylighting as well. And then lastly, in this space, we've got a curtain wall. So this will push all the way back into one location. So it'll look like an actual curtain when it's pulled back. But
it'll actually go vertically, Josie. It's going to go up in the joist.
Sorry, I knew that. So when it's up, it'll be a full gym. And when you bring it down, you'll have 2 separate gyms. So it does kind of diffuse a little bit of sound. However, you will have some sound carrying through. The top half is a net form, and the bottom half is like a plastic. It's a little bit tougher, so if balls hit it, it'll make a big noise, but it stops it from going to the other side of the gym. So you could have 2 gym classrooms going on in here at once without it being too disruptive. And then we also have some wall pads where we thought it was necessary, especially under the basketball courts, or the basketball baskets, I guess. So is there any questions on the gym before we open it up to general questions? Okay, I'll open it up to general questions. And I might phone in Brendan, Dana, and Rob if there's any questions. But if you don't have any right now, or you don't feel that you want to ask it right now, feel free to reach out to me. Al can give you my contact information, and I can either answer the question or direct it.
So I'd like to hear from board members what they think overall. How about we start that way? Janice, do you want to start?
Sure, I think it's fabulous. It's great. I like all the details in the way you planned out the wayfinding, the extended learning spaces, especially the biocyclic designs and all of that sort of thing. That's kind of up my alley. So I think that's really great. I think it's wonderful. Lots of work and effort and sharing. Overall, it's fabulous.
Okay, thank you, Janice. Brian, what do you think? Brian, you're still muted.
Well, that helps probably. So, yeah, I like the color schemes. I think that to me it seems more of like earth tones. Gray is neutral. Blue is always popular color. I like the colors. I was trying, as you go through this, I was trying to think of trying to pick it apart from like maintenance, perspective. How easy is this stuff to clean? How easy is it to maintain? It's all overall seems pretty solid. I was wondering if there was any opportunity for less carpet in the classrooms, especially from the door to the cubbies, because you're having the concrete in the cubby area. But in order to get that, you're going to ruin the carpet getting there. It's not bad. It's just something I was thinking about.
No, that's definitely a good concern. And I can tell you, we did think about that during programming. What we ended up deciding on, which we can always go back and look at it if you guys are still unsure about it. But at the point where they get to the classroom, a lot of their time, their boots will have gone through so much transition spaces. So it'll have gone through the walk-off carpet that'll collect some dirt and water. It'll go through the concrete spaces of the hallway that'll collect some water. And then it'll even go throughout the extended learning areas that'll again collect that dirt. And then when it finally comes up to the classroom and it rests at those cubbies, it's more of where it's defrost mode and it's a possibility for puddling there. But we thought the time that it hit the classrooms already had enough travel time for it to kind of get off their boots, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
No, we can definitely look at it again.
I appreciate the explanation because it walks me through your thought process on it. And at some point, you can't have all concrete. I mean, it's aesthetically, it's not going to look very nice. It's not going to be a nice building. So I don't know. I don't know that I'd change anything. You're right. By the time they get to the classroom, it's not going to matter.
Mm-hmm.
But I do appreciate the in-depth explanation of, a coat's going to thaw or the boots are finally the rest of snow is going to melt off in that area.
I'm glad you mentioned it because that was actually part of our thought process. Is we originally thought and then once we talked a little bit about it more, we kind of reached that consensus of it. So I'm glad you mentioned it for sure.
And I like the trim work. Everything does. I don't know. It seems like it'd be pretty maintenance free. I don't know. I like it. I like a lot of it. So
good. All right. Well, thank you, Brian. Janet, what's your takeaways?
I think Janet had to step away.
Oh, she did? Okay.
Her father-in-law passed away this morning. And so her husband had just gotten home during the meeting from work. She hadn't seen him since he got the news that his dad passed away. So she said she was going to step away, and I don't think she may not be back.
Okay, well then, Jill, what do you think? You're up.
Boy, the Kiva, I absolutely love the Kiva. What a cool space, and love the creativity, the presentation. I really enjoyed hearing feedback that you had received from staff. So when you were describing things to us, you said, we did it this way because, staff had mentioned, or, the input that you had gotten. So I'm so thankful that it's reflected in the design, what our staff and people said. I mean, it's just stunning. It's gorgeous. And my only thing, if I have to say something, the colors, they seem like a little drab or muted or not what I'm feeling it for an elementary school for 5 and 6 year olds. It just feels more mature and adult, maybe an office space. Is there a reason for these colors being kind of, a little too earthy for my taste, I guess? I'm looking for a little more fun or brightness.
Yes.
With these little guys.
Yep. So I'll explain how we reached the color concept. So I think it feels so long ago, but it was back in January, I believe. I came to the district and met with Al and a group of team members, and presented 3 different color concepts. And there were different variations of colors that we could have selected from. So there was a more muted, natural tone. There was a more vibrant, colorful scheme. And then there was a cool and calm color concept. And really what we found was that they liked the cool and calm and the natural and muted one. So we actually combined the 2 into one to reach that color scheme. So that's kind of how it came to be. And then also, we wanted to incorporate what we did with the exterior of the building into the interiors. So that's kind of how we reached it. We presented it to, I can't remember who all it was, but I think it was the principals, Al, and maybe an administration staff member. So that's kind of how we reached it. But if the general consensus is to maybe pop those colors up a little bit, it's something that we can definitely look into.
The other thing I'll comment on, Jill, is it's really hard for us to really present these colors this way on a PowerPoint. I would like to maybe get you the actual samples, and we could put that color palette sample together, and then you could actually see the materials and the color for, in person, whenever that time comes that I can actually see you in person.
That's right.
But no, I think that's the best way to judge the colors, is really seeing it up close and seeing the carpet tile and how it plays to the colors that were selected.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's a good point, Rob. Also, keep in mind the furniture was white in the SketchUp model. You guys will have more color throughout whatever furniture selection you guys go with. So there's opportunity there to kind of maybe pop with the vibrancy as well. So that's a good point, Rob. I'll get them some samples.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Okay, let's see. Lana, what say you?
I really don't have any more to say than what's already been said. What I liked about it, though, it's the color scheme, bringing the outside inside. I really like that with the textures, and I like the colors because it was warm and inviting. It kind of took that institutional edge off. Really like the cubbies. I think that makes it cozy and comfortable for kids, especially young kids. I think they need a smaller contained area, makes them feel secure, comfortable. So all of that kind of was a theme for me as you took us through the building. So I really appreciate all the work that you put into it, and also your listening skills.
Thank you.
What was that, Lana? Did you say something?
Oh, please, Rob.
Not to you, Rob, but.
Okay, all right.
No, you guys really have paid attention to what people have said, and I really appreciate that. And I know that the teachers will value that as well. So thank you so much for that.
Yeah, that's why I said at the beginning, this is really the result of not only our team, but really all the input we got from staff. And it's just a testament to our collaborative process. But I'm glad you guys recognize that. Thank you, Lana. Madonna.
All right, let me unmute myself. I really liked it. I loved it overall. I saw a lot of reminiscence of Mattawan because I had obviously had the opportunity to go down there and see that, and a lot of things I loved about that school. I felt like I was seen in the interior here. For me, I too liked the color. You know, because I do a lot in early childhood, I mean, that's my role. You know, we're trying our best to move away from the primaries and the brights because it's just too overstimulating for young children. So I liked to see the muted, the earth tone colors. I love the sinks in every room. Again, maybe that's my, you know, early childhood background, but as we go into school buildings myself, that's what I keep having to do is renovate and drop a sink in a room because so many schools were not built that way in the past. I did though, I had a question about the floors too, like Brian did. That kind of stuck out to me in the classroom and not so much from them coming in, but I thought about the carpet that was between the cubbies to the exterior door and that being carpet. And I realized that the intention is not necessarily that they're going to use that exterior door all the time, but I imagine that there are times that they will. And if it made sense to have the concrete floor at least go from the cubby area to the exterior door for when classrooms, and I imagine some classrooms would use that door more than others and so on and so forth. But that was a thought that I had too when I saw the carpet there. But I mean,
Yeah.
I appreciate this and really just loved seeing it all.
Good. Yeah, we could definitely look at that because that's a good point that you bring up that I hadn't thought about yet was if that exterior door is being used more, maybe for one classroom, it is important to kind of have that transition in between. So that's something that we can look into for sure. Thank you for bringing that up.
Yes, thank you.
I think one of the things, and we haven't gotten to this level of detail yet, but we will. A lot of times those doors on the classrooms won't have any hardware on the outside. And that's to help prevent people from getting in from the outside, people that you don't want getting in from the outside. So we would oftentimes just blanket off. So if the decision is made to have that hardware out there so that people can go back and forth from the classroom directly, then we can definitely look at having that concrete connect into the cubbies.
This is Madonna again. I thought of one other question. What is the capacity, the seating capacity of the bleachers in the gym? Because I know we've talked about, that gym is to be used more than just for elementary. And if we're having, middle school, high school sporting events in there, I'm just curious what is that ability to seat people?
Yeah, I think the count I did was somewhere around between 300 and 350, I think. Something like that.
Yeah, I was thinking 300.
Yeah, maybe it was 250 to 300.
And just so you're aware, Madonna, we sized that based on like more JV, not varsity. Yeah, we thought most varsity would be at the high school gym.
Okay. Okay. Understood.
Hey, Brendan, they got an answer to your question. It needs to be 25 feet for minimum height.
Okay.
Thank you, Thomas.
Not a problem. We'll get that adjusted.
Okay, I see Dan Clegg is with us. Dan, did you have any comments?
I am with you. Thank you. No, nice job on the presentation tonight. I really appreciated it. I absolutely love the compass rose in the middle of the building. I cannot wait to explain that to everybody that comes through. Yeah, no, it looks great. I loved it, guys. Thank you very much, and ladies.
Thanks, Dan. Do we have any other administrators? Al, I didn't see. Just looking at. Just want to make sure.
No, but we do. Jennifer Gould's a board member, and we need to make sure we ask her.
Oh, she's not on my.
Yeah, she has elementary students, so I'd love to hear what Jennifer has to say.
Yeah, go ahead, Jennifer.
Here. I mean, I really like it overall as well. I kind of agree with Jill on the color scheme, but like you said, I don't think you get the justice of the colors by looking at them on the screen. Otherwise, I was curious about what the sight line is from the interior windows to that cubby, because I know we discussed a lot about the lockdown situation and making sure there's not that line of sight.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's pretty secure. I don't know, Brendan, can you go back to that general classroom slide? But really if they're looking from the interior of, say, the extended learning areas, that's pretty closed off because we do have that half wall. So if in the instance if anything ever happens, you can have kids lining in throughout here. And then we also have this mechanical vent that comes down to the floor. So if you're looking from over at this corner, basically this view, you see this half wall. So you could have students behind that half wall, sitting down or crouching or whatever the protocol is, but the vision is very minimal. I think that's a good point that you bring up because it is something that we considered in that space.
Did that answer your question, Jennifer?
Yes, it did. Yeah. Otherwise, yeah, I like the use of all the space. It's very nice.
Okay, Al, unless there's other comments from other people, Al, we can conclude this portion if there's no other questions.
I have a question, but it's more of a general, broader question about the process. I have just been thinking and worrying. Our schools and education isn't going to look the same, I don't think, when we come out of this pandemic. And we most likely will do more virtual schooling in the future. And we may need to adjust our plans in different ways, some of that maybe that we haven't even thought of yet. And I just wondered how you see us going forward with our build for the next couple of years. Will we need to kind of wait and see what's going to happen? Or I just hate to see us build something that isn't going to meet the needs that come out of the next couple months or years.
So do you want me to start the response to that, Al?
Yeah, I think
I don't mean to sound real negative or dark or anything, but I'm just thinking, we're in the design phase, we're conceptualizing that sort of thing. And I don't know, maybe we'll be back to pretty much same old status quo in another 6 months or so. But since we're not going to be finished with these projects for years down the road, do we have wiggle room? Is there something we should be doing, thinking about that?
So I guess I'll start out. One, we design a lot of flexibility in the spaces, but we have to to comply with the current criteria that we have to build schools to. And, so we got to design the classrooms a certain size. And, Brendan, you can get into like all the criteria that we have to follow. We certainly, with a new building, you're certainly going to be able to support remote learning or virtual learning. And I think it's hard to really tell what the future holds as far as what K-12 education might change into.
Right.
But I do think there still is, what you're describing, there would have to be substantial change in the laws and the codes and the criteria. So I think for us, the best thing we can do, though, is continually, if you notice throughout the entire design, we have built in flexibility, multi-use, and to where you could easily transform a space into something else to match whatever that is maybe in the future. So I don't, Brendan, do you have any more?
A lot of space within the building in a traditional building is dedicated to circulation. And in this design, we probably have, I don't know, maybe 2,000 square feet that is corridor space. Everything else has an educational purpose. The Kiva, even the hub, you can use those spaces for education. So we're trying to be as densely utilized as possible. From the standpoint of what happens in the classroom wings themselves, we have, so the walls between classrooms are going to be concrete block, but the walls between the classroom and the extended learning area are going to be drywall. And so in the future, if you do need to change how the building is configured, you'll be able to do that. But as far as I guess I don't see in the near future that the need for buildings, school buildings, is going to change anytime soon. I think, as a parent, it's hard. I can't imagine not sending my kids to a school.
Right. I can't either as a teacher, parent, grandparent, but I just wondered, things are so up in the air right now, and none of us know what things are going to look like going forward. So I'll stop worrying.
And Jan, I think that, and I've thought about this since you posed the question. I think it's a good question. I think one of the things that I'm seeing is the potential for flexibilities given back to local boards more. I'm thinking of the opportunities of what we already talked about, of what technology might look like and how we can provide technology for students. You look at like in Indiana, who's gone to, if it's a snow day, students take their work home, and there's really no more snow days in Indiana because it's done remotely. I do think there'll be some opportunities for boards to look at the expansion of online learning if that's a choice that parents want within their local community. So I think there's some curriculum and technology and some resource concepts around what we're providing the kids within the space we have that is going to be one of the first things we address. Those are the conversations that as I sit in webinars over the last week, those are kind of the words and the things I'm hearing. The word flexibility a lot, those types of things. But it's not around maybe the building, but more around how you might deliver the content, whether it be, online or not. And I think one of the things, even tonight's decision, is that I think just, it's kind of mandatory now that you have to have a Google Classroom if you're a teacher. You just have to do that. That's going to be the new normal.
I don't think we can go back, Al.
No, I don't either. The other one that I think that we're hearing, which we do have, I think that the space does provide it, is experiential learning that takes what I'm learning and makes it practical. And we've discussed that. I mean, as a board, you guys have been very much a proponent of that. And I think that one of the things with our space that we should have conversation is on, and I know Dan has already spoke to me about that, is could we make an outdoor classroom with the woods we have around there, where kids can have an outdoor classroom, those types of spaces. So I think those are some conversations we can have as a district as well that can help say, okay, here's the space we have. How do we mold this new environment within this space? And I think that we've got some good creative minds from staff to board that we can make some of those things happen.
And with this plan, we have plenty of flexibility then to do any number of things.
Well, I think with the current design we do as well.
Okay.
So and remember that we also have other building spaces too that we can use. I think the one thing that I think that will be tied into a Tri-County for many more years compared to, and I'll use Kennewa Hills as an example, where they kind of have a storefront virtual learning model where it's, a storefront where the old Radio Shack was on Alpine. I'm not sure that our area is going to be as conducive to that. I think that in our area, people still look to a school building to provide that. That's why like our virtual school is more in that type of space than in a storefront, because we just don't have the storefronts to provide that like you do in the city.
And our whole overall concept has been focused on the community and bringing people together in a central place. So, it's really, I don't know.
Well, and I can give one other point. I think of a lot of the parents that I talked to today and then yesterday and some of the emails I've got. Parents are excited to see their kids back in school.
Oh, yes.
Amen, brother.
I think the school building may become very important.
Okay, thank you.
No, good question, Jen.
Yeah, thank you, Janice. All right, well, I'll turn it back over to you, Jill, if there's anything else for us.
Any other comments from anybody? I really appreciate you guys putting all this together. It's stunning. It's beautiful. Just kudos to the thought and all the work you've done to this point. I mean, you guys are really amazing.
Hey.
Yeah.
Thank you
very much.
Yes, thank you.
So happy. Thank you. At this time, we are going to vote tonight on Chromebooks. We heard a presentation earlier this evening for the additional purchase of Chromebooks toward the one-to-one initiative. And do we have a motion to approve this? As recommended. This is
Madonna. I make a motion.
Who was it?
Sorry, this is Madonna.
Okay.
Madonna.
Yep, I make a motion to approve the Chromebook additional purchases to do the one-to-one initiative K through 12 as recommended by Superintendent Cummings.
I support that. This is Lana Ford.
Okay.
Motion by Madonna and supported by Lana. Any discussion or questions? Mrs. Dewey, you'll get a roll call.
Okay. Member Gould.
Yes.
Member Princer.
Yes.
Jan has left, right? Member Powell is excused.
Yeah, I think she's
okay.
Stepped away.
Member Ford.
Yes.
Member Campbell.
Yes.
Member Fennessy.
Yes.
And Member Dewey. Yes.
That motion carried 6-0 and 1 who was absent. Is there an opportunity, Mr. or Mrs. Dewey? Do we hear from anyone for public comment?
No, no comments.
Emails or calls? Do we even know if we have any calls?
I don't know that. I didn't receive any emails, and unless Al's received it or Sherry's received it, I haven't gotten any.
Okay.
Sherry, did you get any?
No, Al, you didn't get anything?
No, I'm waiting to hear from Sherry. I can see she's online, but I don't hear her. And I saw she just unmuted herself.
Oh, she might have. She would have probably let me know.
Yeah, she would have let me know as well. So
Yeah, in advance.
Yep.
Board comments? Do anyone have any comments? Random comments?
Mine's random. I just wanted to give kudos to Eric. I sat in on 2 of his workshops, one last week and then one today, and he does a fabulous job of professional development with Google and setting up your Google Classroom. So kudos to Eric, and I learned a lot.
No, I'm going to second that. Eric's done a wonderful job, not just with the Chromebook handout, getting this information together quickly, and then the training he's done for staff has been wonderful. So, and even running these meetings, Eric, just great leadership at this time. Nice job.
Wonderful.
Jan Dewey, I just am so excited about this building. It's just fabulous, isn't it?
That's cool.
It just makes me want to go back to teaching. Instead of putting kids in boxes, just so they could read or little tents or whatever, they get to crawl into the crawl spaces.
Yeah.
That's great.
King Scott's done a nice job.
Really nice.
And appreciate them listening to our staff, and kudos to our administrators and teachers and the work they put into this, and Tom and Eric and Sherry as well. So a lot of time by a lot of people. So good work.
Yep. So exciting. Anyone else?
Jennifer?
Yes, Jennifer.
I would just like to, thank all the teachers, especially being a parent. I understand how much work that they went into setting up these classrooms, and I got on them both today and started my own classroom teaching. So I now understand what it is to be a teacher. So it's going to be, I think, a struggle for some parents. So I understand.
Yep.
Thanks, Jennifer. Anyone else before we look for a motion to adjourn? All right. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Support.
Motion by Campbell and supported by, who was that?
Well, I did. This is Ford, but there's somebody else too. We did it kind of together.
But it don't matter.
It was kind of stereo. All right, we'll go motion by Campbell and supported by Lana. All in favor of adjourning at 8:44, please say aye.
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 No one opposed? Motion carries. We are adjourned, 8:44. Long night for you guys.
Yeah, thanks a lot,
At
Rob.
King Scott.
Oh,
and
no
we'll see
problem.
you.
Thanks, Rob.
Yep. Thank
Thank
you
you.
guys.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you
Good
all.
night.